Hey shooters, welcome back to the Shooters Resource Channel. Today we're going to be looking at the Ruger LCP Max. This is Ruger's latest offering in the LCP series of firearms, but it comes with a double stack 10+1 capacity straight from the factory. Before we get started on the details and my first impression of this firearm, go ahead and take a second. Hit that like and subscribe button, support the channel. Hey shooters, let me let you in on a little secret about myself. I absolutely hate diet soda. So we're gonna go ahead and see how the LCP shoots. Is it accurate enough to take out our arch enemy, Mr. Diet Coke? We're about to find out. All right, let's look at the Ruger LCP Max. This is a great gun. I got a little bit of dirt there in the grip when I was shooting. It started raining on me a little bit. But all in all, just a great little 380 pistol. This LCP Max is part of the LCP series. This is the LCP II, and you can see they're very similar. Let me take the magazine out. The exception is the original LCP is a single stack magazine. This is their 7-round extended, and that's about as many rounds as you could get in the original. But with the LCP Max, now you can get up to 12+1. And these guns are very, very similar in size. So if I put the 12+1 on top of the 7+1, you can see that they're identical in size. Profile-wise, at least. The only difference is the grip is slightly wider on the LCP Max. But, I mean, that's almost not even noticeable. And it's actually very welcomed because that helps with recoil. But let's see what the difference in width is overall. Let me grab my calipers. Okay, so we're right at 0.8. 0.85, somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah, 0.88. You know, just depending on where you're landing on this texturing. And we'll try a few spots on this gun. 0.93. So we're talking, you know, a 1/16 of an inch at the most. So the widths are very comparable between the two models. And they've increased the amount of texturing here on the rear, which is really good. The texturing on the side has changed a little bit. You can see this back portion was raised up. And that's probably why they raised this portion originally with the LCP II, was to get a little more width back here to reduce some of that recoil. Again, more surface area that you have back here, the more that any force placed against your hand is kind of spread and dispersed across the width there. That's why wider guns typically can be ran a little faster than some of the more narrow guns, because you're just able to absorb that recoil a little more. I definitely noticed it with this, even though it's only a slight bit wider than the LCP II. So as mentioned before, the major difference between these two is the 10+1 magazine for the flush fit. That's great to get 10+1 rounds or 11 rounds of 380. That's really amazing in such a small platform that can still fit in your pocket relatively easy. And then you have, and this is the 12-round mag. So this is the 12-rounder. Where's my 10-round magazine? Here it is. So here's the 10-round flush fit. There's almost very little difference in size between the 10 and the 12. So here's your 10 flush fit. Can't get the pinky on. Drop it out. Throw the 12 in, and now I can get my pinky on. And the gun shot really well. I was very pleased with it. Now, these smaller guns are always a little harder to shoot than some of their larger larger guns, which is why we still have a need for larger guns. But I found that making hits with the LCP Max was much easier than the LCP II. Plus, I've got more rounds to back it up. So my first impression of the LCP Max is this is a pretty solid gun, and I picked it up today for $359 at my local gun shop, which is about the same price that I paid for the LCP II when it was a little newer. Now let's compare the 380 versus the 9mm. I had a little bit of trouble knocking over some of the targets with this 380, even though I do believe that the 380 is powerful enough to carry for self-defense. There's no doubt about it. If you think back to the cowboy times, many of them were carrying 32 Smith & Wessons for years. So 380 is definitely powerful enough to carry, but it is no 9mm. There is some differences in the amount of energy and performance. And I could see that when I was shooting steel, because the 9mm almost never has problems knocking over my little 8x12 stand-up men. But the 380 sometimes took as many 4 shots to knock one of the steels over. And this is factory ammunition. It's just practice ammunition, and some of the defensive ammo is more powerful for sure. But it's just something to note when you're making that choice between 9mm and 380. But again, there are pros for the 380. You can typically have a much smaller and lighter weight platform with a 380, which is what we see here today with the LCP Max. Some other differences with the LCP Max versus the original LCP or LCP II is the sights. The front sight here has a trinium vial, and it's white, easy to pick up in terms of fast target acquisition. And the rear sight has a flat ledge here so that you can rack it off of items if need be. Some other improvements include the magazine release. Magazine release on here has been widened versus the original small profile magazine release. Slide lock remains the same, and it's a little tight, but I found that I could get the gun into battery if need be, so it wasn't too bad. And the trigger, you can see the reset comes forward quite a bit, but there's an audible reset, and the travel to rear is 3/16 of an inch, maybe almost a quarter. Reset's about 1/4 of an inch, so not horrible for a pocket gun. I would say this trigger's probably coming in right at about 5.5 pounds or so, maybe 6 pounds. I was able to make accurate hits much better with this LCP Max versus the LCP II. Now, some of that is possibly the sights versus the original, and you can see there's been a huge improvement made there. So the other thing here is they have a cocking ledge, so this is slightly raised here at the rear so that you can make sure you get a firm purchase. The slide size up here for the LCP is rather small, which is good because it helps with recoil. And you can see when I'm shooting the gun fast, which you can shoot this gun very fast, it has very little muzzle rise. And some of that might be due to a smaller, lighter weight slide. If you're in the market for a new pocket carry 380 or pocket gun in general, check out the LCP Max. And I seen that James Reeves compared it to the SIG P365, which I think is a good comparison because they're both really small guns. And a lot of people might think, why would you need a 380? A double stack 380. But this gun weighs a little over 18 ounces. This gun weighs just over 10 ounces. So it's almost half the weight. It's still smaller, especially with the 10-round magazine. So there's 10-round magazines in both of these. And the gun overall is still smaller. It's shorter. It's narrower. So it's an overall smaller platform. It's lighter weight. This is a true pocket pistol. I can fit the P365 in my pocket, but it's a little big. It weighs it down quite a bit. So This is definitely a great gun for pocket carry. So if you're in the market for a new pocket gun, check out the LCP Max. It won't disappoint you. And if you haven't already, go ahead and take a second. Hit that like and subscribe button, support the channel, and hit that bell icon so that you can be notified when we release new videos. As always, thank you all, and God bless.